Welcome everyone to our final episode of the Lasallian Way. So we begin as we have been doing the last few weeks. Let us remember
We are in the holy presence of
we
God.
are in the holy presence of God. Very good, thank you. Our topic today is the Lasallian family. And I'm happy to introduce to you Amanda Weingarten, who I just learned is an alum of De La Salle. And Amanda, welcome.
Thank you.
And she currently works as a college counselor for De La Salle. And so Amanda, introduce yourself further, more fully, and tell us a little bit who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. So I graduated from De La Salle North Catholic in 2005. So I was a member of the very first class. So we weren't even at the Kenton building. We were at the old former Queen of Peace parish. And after that, I went on to college in California. And after college, I actually joined the Lasallian volunteer program. So it's a postgraduate volunteer program, which focuses really on education and social justice, working at various community centers. And through that program, I got the opportunity to go to Bronx, New York, so very far from home and everything I know. And I had the opportunity to live in community with the Christian Brothers. So I lived with four Christian brothers, De La Salle Christian Brothers, and 3 other volunteers. And we shared meals together. A lot of us worked together at different sites.
What kind of work did you do?
So my first year, I worked in a community center in the South Bronx, which is one of the poorest congressional districts in the country, right by Yankee Stadium. So it's just kind of funny, this very fancy, expensive building, and next to a lot of low-income housing, a lot of people who lived in the area couldn't even afford to go to games. And then my second year, I did 2 years in the program, and my second year, I was a campus minister at a Lasallian high school in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And so did that type of work, and then just kind of circled back, got my master's at a Lasallian school, Lasallian College in the Bronx, Manhattan College. And so through the Lasallian volunteers, I actually met my now husband. And so really the whole Lasallian traditions and mission are really help create a solid foundation, I think, for our relationship. We really both have a passion. We both currently work in education. So we just have a strong passion for education, as well as social justice, and then passing that on to our son, who's 4 now. And so was very familiar with the Christian Brothers, and kind of really, that's why the Lasallian family was a topic I was really excited about. When I saw that listed,
Sure.
I'm like, this is who I am, and this is who we are as a family.
So can I ask what sort of work your husband does? He's in education?
He's in education. He oversees the Residence Life program at University of Portland. So does Residence Life,
Okay.
Director of Residence Life, and Student Conduct over at University of Portland. And so we both actually worked at Manhattan College, Lasallian School, together. And then once we moved out here, we kind of went our separate ways in our own individual schools, different levels. So
I imagine he has stories to tell.
yes, indeed.
Imagine that. Dorm life forever.
It was funny. We actually lived on campus when our son was born. We lived on an apartment at Manhattan College in the Bronx. And so it was a very unique situation. But when we moved back to Portland about 3 years ago, our son was just very confused. Why are we in this little house? To him, it was little because he's used to 7-story apartment building in New York, which is where we lived, with an elevator. And he had all these friends, according to him. He had tons of friends. And so just all the college students who, of course, loved to play with him and talk to him. And so it was an adjustment for him, even though my husband and I were happy to finally have our own place.
So tell us a little bit about what it means to be a college counselor at De La Salle now.
Yes, so the role as a whole is really just supporting students and their families preparing to apply to college. So going through the application process. Today is actually another big application deadline for students. A lot of the early applications are due throughout November as well as December. And so making sure, they're submitting their applications on time, have given notice to their teachers, getting letters of recommendation, and just really supporting them along the way, directing them to scholarships and really helping them on that way. A lot of students assume I will get them into college. So that work is on you. I just support you and help your parents during this transition. That's probably very scary for them.
Yeah, sure. So when you hear the phrase, the Lasallian family, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so personally, it's just about the Christian brothers. I never thought in a million years, I think I was 22 when I moved in with them, that I was going to be super close with a bunch of 80, 70, 80-year-old men.
Right.
Like, what do I have anything in common with them? What am I going to do? That was my biggest fear. Not moving across the country from everything I knew, not working at a new place. I'm one of 4 girls, so it was mostly girls in my house, women in my house. My dad was the only guy I ever lived with, and he was very much like, you do what you need to do, I won't bother you. And so I'm like, what do I have to talk to them about? But just after, even just a few weeks, my first thought when I hear Lasallian Family are the brothers, and how much they make me feel welcome when I moved out to New York. Again, they were the only people I knew in this big city, and just feeling welcome, bringing my true self to them of great days, bad days. And then as, I finished the program, went on, got married, they were definitely one of the first people as soon as we got engaged, like our parents, our siblings, and then we're like, we have to call the brothers. Like, because my husband did the volunteer program as well. And so he also has his group of brothers that we're very close with. When we were planning our wedding, working and trying to figure out what we wanted, our big thing was we need to have the brothers a part of it, because they kind of brought us together, we felt like, in this Lasallian program. And just overall, just the Lasallian network, it's global, it is worldwide. And realizing I'm coming from Portland, Oregon, which sometimes may seem like a very big city, but in comparison to New York City, it's very small.
Sure.
And so going to this area that I had no idea what to expect. I just kind of went in on faith that God was putting me in this place for a reason, and it was what I needed to do, but just welcomed with open arms, no matter what. There were other people there that are like, yeah, I'm from Texas. Never thought I'd live in New York, but here we are. And just my ministries, the Lasallian ministries I worked in, colleges and high school and community center, just working with people. And I think the whole mission of the Lasallian family is just to support, but also push and challenge you to kind of be the best educator. Christian Brothers' mission and De La Salle's mission is to provide quality education. And that is the core of who we are as Lasallians. And so even just personal relationships and like, okay, how is this strengthening me as a person, but also how am I going to become better as an educator? And that in turn will benefit our students the best. And so bringing that into my work is also very important.
If you take the notion of the Lasallian notion of teaching minds, touching hearts, it sounds like this notion of the Lasallian family is a bridge between the two, yeah?
Yes.
So how does this notion of family, Lasallian family, get infused or communicated to the students that you're working with?
Yeah, I think taking them out of their student role and getting to know who they are as a person. So going to their games, if they're soccer, volleyball, basketball, embracing who they are outside the classroom, because academics might not be everyone's strong suit, but they're a great musician, they're a great artist, they're a great athlete, or they're a great family person, and getting to know who they are personally. And I think in my role as college counselor, that's something I'm really blessed to be able to do, because I'm hearing a lot about their personal stories, editing essays and reviewing those and trying to make sure that they're putting themselves out there as like their best possible person and kind of selling themselves and networking them. And so I think just being able to like teach them and say, you have other strengths. Like, yes, I have tons of students, whether here or when I worked at a college or the other Lasallian high school in Brooklyn, that are like, I'm not strong academically, so colleges aren't going to want me. And it's like, no, but look what else you can bring to the table. You've accomplished so much. You've overcome so much in your life, whether losing a family member or fighting an illness yourself, or dealing with different challenges that your traditional high school student, your average high school student would not have to deal with, but this is who you are. So bring that forward. You've overcome it and here you are now. And so you can bring a lot to the table. And so helping them realize that they're not just a student, they're another person. And that's something that I think at De La Salle, we do a really good job of getting to know our students and really caring for them and celebrating their successes, comforting and supporting them during their, challenges or failures, and just being there for them no matter what.
So as college counselor, are you working only with seniors, juniors and seniors, or do you pretty much get to know all the students, or how does that work?
So predominantly, I think coming in at this point, like beginning of the year, it's really focusing on the seniors and making sure they have their list of schools they want to apply to, helping them narrow it down, making sure their major is there, making sure they have activities that they're going to enjoy participating in. Because again, they're going to be a student, but they're going to be there the whole time. So they need to make sure they feel like this can be another home for them. And then also just working with juniors now, kind of spring semester after the holidays will kind of be when we transition over to spring, because a lot of seniors applications will be done.
Sure.
But really going in and talking to freshmen and sophomores too, just kind of making it known. When I was here as a student at De La Salle, I wish someone came in freshman year and said, what you do now will help you, or if you don't do well, it could hurt you. Kind of determine what kind of schools you want to go to. Like if you are very set on playing sports in college, now is the time to really showcase your skills, start working with your family, your coaches, to make sure you're set up well. Because having seniors come now and say, I want to go to a Division I school and play basketball. Okay, it might be a little late. And so kind of helping them through this process of, it should have started a while ago, working with your coaches especially. And so really just planting the seed with freshmen and sophomores on like, okay, start thinking about school. You're here at De La Salle for a reason. This is really preparing you for college. You're here also, our work program is great. And so being able to showcase all the skills that they learn throughout their 4 years and not just focusing on what I've done senior year.
Okay. You grew up in Portland. You went to Holy Redeemer School. You know the neighborhood. So I have kind of an unfair question, and it's not on the list that I gave you. But,
oh no.
It goes like this. Let's pretend that I am a college admissions guy. I don't know the title, but and let's say I'm looking at an application from a student from De La Salle and an application from a student, let's say Jefferson High School, just down the road. And academically equal, extracurricular equal, service equal. They look like terrific candidates. What's the difference that I might see in a De La Salle student?
So I think the biggest thing is our corporate work study program. Our students go to corporate businesses throughout Portland, different businesses, whether it be Nike, Bora Architects, school that helped really physically build the school, and just wide range of sites throughout Portland. And they get this experience from the time they're in, like they start high school, they start learning these skills on how to be successful in a workplace. And so I try to push students when they're doing their applications, like talk about that, because there's no other school in Portland that can say, or in the state of Oregon, especially when our students are looking at Oregon and Oregon State, you're the only students here. The 64, that we have 64 seniors this year. I'm like, the 64 of you are the only ones that have this experience. Make this shine. What have you learned? What has being at your work study placement helped you decide what you want to do as a career. Because a lot of students are like, I never thought about going and teaching, but I worked at a daycare through this program and I really enjoy it. And so
Sure.
like utilizing that and making those skills, like, yes, a lot of students work at Target or Fred Meyer, kind of like the regular, your average
Yeah.
high school jobs that you get, babysit or, do things like that. But our students have a unique experience and a unique skill that I think they mature a little faster because they are in this professional setting, that they need to really realize how to carry themselves as a person, carry themselves in a workplace, how to do a lot of things at like a fax machine. We have students that know how to actually work a fax machine. And, there are many businesses out there in the world now, and even schools where you get jobs on campus and you might have to operate a fax machine,
Right.
or you might have to operate things that you may not have ever dealt with if it weren't for being a student at De La Salle and part of that corporate work study program.
So let's take the analogy a step further. Let's bump ahead a year. Our De La Salle student has come to my school. Let's say I'm at Oregon State, and so this young person has moved in, and as we all know, it's a huge transition in life, moving away from home and into this new community. Talk to me a little bit about how this notion of the Lasallian family may empower this student to land well and launch well. Not that our young person from Jefferson can't and didn't, we don't know that, but I'm trying to get to this notion of the community that empowers.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's a global network, and I actually have one of my best rain jackets is my Lasallian Volunteers jacket. And so grab that this morning, not even making the connection. I was doing this today, and I will be in the small town my husband grew up in South Jersey, and someone's like, I went to LaSalle University, or I went to Christian Brothers University in Memphis. And just people recognize just that title of LaSalle or Lasallian. And it's a great support. And we offer, I think the student teacher ratio at De La Salle offers a unique experience in that we definitely become a family, because you get to know the students personally, not just in the classroom, where I feel like a lot of public schools may not offer that, but we kind of take it a step further and stay in touch. I'm really fortunate enough. I work with 3 teachers that taught me when I was in high school. And one of them had a layover in New York the year my son was born, and actually met my son before a majority of my family did. My parents were there, but it was something I was willing to share. Like, I could have easily been like, I'm not comfortable doing it. It's just this connection you make with your teachers and you make with your counselors here, still good friends with my counselor from high school, and just having these close connections. And then we're able to help students network and say, oh, yes, you're no longer working at De La Salle, but I remember teaching you. And now here we go here. I'm also friends with teachers that aren't even here at De La Salle anymore, and being able to connect me with, hey, look at this job opportunity when I was in college and came home for the summer. They're like, I want to connect you with this person. I know you have an interest in counseling, so let's connect you with someone that's in the field now. So I think it offers a lot of networking and support for our students when they go off to college. And we're not the type of school that's like, great, go fly the nest. Don't come back ever again, please. We don't want to see you. We welcome our alums coming back. I worked, one of my first few weeks here at De La Salle a couple months ago, I had an alum that came back that said, I don't understand my award letter from, she's at University of Oregon. She's like, I don't understand what this means. Does this mean I need to take a loan out? And so being able to come back and work with students who I didn't know, I didn't work with them last year. I've just been at De La Salle since the beginning of this academic year. And so being able to help these students regardless, they just feel this sense of home at De La Salle, and it truly is a family. And seeing students outside, like running errands at Target with a student, and they're like, hey, I'm like, who is, okay, gotcha. There you go. And so being able to share my family with the students when I see them out, seeing me with my son, or seeing them with their families, and even alums that just feel so comfortable. They're like, okay, you work here, so I know you're a good person and I know you're going to help me no matter what. And so I think networking along with just support, even when they're in college, feeling like they can come home to De La Salle to get guidance when needed.
I welcome comments or questions from you and from you if you'd like. I've got a couple of other things in my mind, but I don't want to dominate. Ruth,
How do you
go ahead and step right up to the computer so they can see you.
How do you involve parents in the preparation for college process?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is making sure parents are aware of what's going on. I've met with a number of parents. I've exchanged phone calls, emails, Zoom meetings with parents. Just are like, I don't understand anything. A lot of our students are first generation college students, so their parents didn't go to college and they're not aware of, you know, what the process is like, or even when their student is in college, like, what does the writing center, what is that like? Are they going to write the paper for my child? Are they going to help my child write the paper? What exactly are these things? I also was a first generation college student, and so I kind of come with that lens of like, okay, what did I wish I knew? And then now as a parent, what I like to hear from someone that knows more about it than I do.
Sure.
And being able to make sure that we're making the best decision as a family, that we're sending our child off to the best school possible, and that we also aren't going to be negatively impacted. And so, and then there's some points also where I encourage the student to be an advocate for themselves, because there are plenty of students who are like, my parents want me to go to a four-year school. I'm not ready to do that. I don't think I'm going to do well. I just don't have, I mean, being a high school student right now, I do not envy them in a pandemic, trying to navigate
right.
remote learning. I mean, remote work was hard for me. Like trying to learn how to do everything remotely was a challenge. And so I think being able to be their biggest advocate too, but also encourage them to have those conversations and build that trust with the families, and make sure that they feel like I'm not necessarily taking sides with their student, but helping them see where their student's coming from. I'm like, here's scenario A, you push them, they go to U of O. Or they start at P and they drop out after a month of school. So then you lose all that money, you owe a lot of money. Or they go to PCC for a year, they feel better about their academic ability, their GPA is higher, they get more money, and now you have to pay less for college. And so trying to explore all options with our families and help them see the students' perspective as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barbara, step right up.
I hope if I leave my mask on, you can still hear me. Do you ever encourage them to go into the fields like engineering or other skills like that?
Absolutely. I've had students that have come up.
Repeat the question, please.
Oh, yes. Just if we encourage students to kind of go into like trades, engineering type of fields. And absolutely, I've had students that come up and are like, I'm just more interested in going to be an electrician, or I want to be a real estate agent instead. And I know I don't need a bachelor's to do that. Help me navigate that. And so being able to share with them, like, here's some opportunities. We have students that want to take a gap year and just work and then go into become an electrician, a carpenter. And so helping them explore. And that was one thing when I got hired, I'm like, I'm not going to be the counselor that's forcing students to a four-year school. This whole year, I think having like the psychology background that I have, and being able to see like the mental toll it took on students' mental health is, I'm trying to save for my son's therapy. I can't afford to pay for therapy for your kids. So let's work together at trying to, help them feel best prepared. And a lot of students right now working, learning remotely for a year and a half, going to a four-year school on like a track that people think is normal and average. is just, they're not ready for it.
Right,
And so really here, along with my colleagues in the counseling center, we're here to support them, making sure they're mentally prepared as well as academically as teachers. And so showing them different options too. Some students are like, well, if I want to be an electrician, I have to go get this degree. I'm like, yeah, that's one way to go about the path, but here, let's explore some other ways too.
Sure.
And just seeing that it's providing more anxiety for them to think about going away for school or even staying here and having to go 4 years before they feel like they can start a career. And so supporting students and really having them take control of their education path and career goals. I always start my meetings with students on what's your career goal? And then going back. So if a student comes to me and says, I want to be a pediatrician, but I don't want to go to college, it's not exactly, it's gonna be helpful. And I always put it in, if you're my child's pediatrician, I would not take you if you didn't go to medical school. So they're like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Like then it like starts the gears on like, okay, well, here's the path to become a pediatrician. Here's a path to be a teacher. And just kind of explain, but starting with that main goal and then helping them see like, okay, here are ways you can accomplish this goal.
Time for one more question before Leaf gets the last question.
Yes. I know the Bronx where you where I worked actually.
Oh, awesome.
And I worked with St. Dominic's Home, system of group homes in the South Bronx, 138th Street.
Yes.
But I know where Manhattan College is, which is the Christian Brothers, the Brothers of Christian Schools
Yes.
in the Bronx, which is in Riverdale, which is
Riverdale.
part of the Bronx, but it's a very exclusive area.
Yes.
Now, you know that the South Bronx is very well known for all the tremendous poverty and the children of working people and the very poor. How were you able to translate that, what you were getting over there at Manhattan College and the tremendously poor areas of the 138th Street, below Fordham Road and all of that area?
So the brothers actually live down in that area. And so they were all about getting out into the community. They started the community center, Highbridge Community Center, for that reason. They didn't want people in the South Bronx to feel like they didn't deserve a quality education. A lot of kind of going with this Lasallian mission of education, a lot of the education programs weren't for school age kids. There was a lot of after school care, but it was predominantly for adult education and adult learning and helping them kind of finish their education, start it if they never started, and just kind of help them get to high school diploma or get them to a point where they would feel like they can go out into the workforce and get better jobs to kind of help their family kind of move out of the South Bronx. But in New York, people have a lot of pride of where they come from, and they always want to make the community better. And so coming back to this whole family idea, was just amazing to see these people who struggled their whole lives, and they're like, well, I still want to give back. I don't have a lot, but I want to give back. And so bringing that experience wasn't necessarily bringing the experience from Manhattan College to the South Bronx, but bringing the South Bronx to Manhattan College and making this connection on, hey, we have this Lasallian ministry. And even the community center ended up closing, but there was still a lot of connections to the community. And so bringing them up to the campus and saying, hey, this is a possibility for you. Don't feel like, because it's 8 stops on the subway, that it's so far away, and because it's in Riverdale, but just that it's still a possibility. And the brothers, that was one of their biggest things. They wanted to make sure students felt they had access to it as well. And so it was really great to be able to see the hard work that the brothers, even though they retired, they never really were retired, because they still made it a point to bring students and make that connection.
So Amanda, the last question, and I've asked each of our guests this question, but I'll put it to you this way, in light of this notion of family, Lasallian family, if if we looked at De La Salle and St. Charles as siblings who have moved in together, what's your advice on how we ought to get on together?
I think the biggest thing is patience. I feel like we're still new. We just have full access to our building and just learning and a lot of growing pains of you have your community here with the parish. And then we kind of moved in with all of our stuff. And so it definitely is. And also kind of relating it to not only being siblings, but like college roommates and like the conversation I
yeah.
have with a lot of our students on like, how many of you have a roommate right now? You know, like getting a feel for it and just being patient, but also kind of on the flip side, embracing us and us doing the same for you of support our students, show up to events that we have. You know, I know with COVID, it makes it a little more challenging, but our open events, we're really going to be intentional about inviting you all to come into the school and see it while students are there. I know on Sundays you're able to kind of get a view, but it has a whole other feeling and like attitude when the students are there of like, it's happening, it's here, and really making it feel like it's your home as well. You know, we have shared space, but when basketball games are up and running, even just popping by, saying hi.
There were a number of parishioners who said yesterday that they'd like to know what the schedule is like for basketball, volleyball, and would love to come to games.
The weekly bulletin, making sure we put that, and then also vice versa. Any events you're having here, making sure, you know, faculty, staff, and our families, a lot of our families live in this neighborhood. I think that's a big thing is that Lasallian education, you don't have to be Catholic, even though it is this Catholic tradition. So a good percentage of our students aren't Catholic. And so being able to have them be welcoming, ask questions that they don't know. We encourage them to do that at school, but also when there's events we can welcome them into and say, hey, this is what it's like to be in a church. These are traditions we have. I think the ofrenda for Dia de los Muertos was a big one of being able to have one here, have one in the building, and kind of having that be a connector for us, even though we can't all be together, and having these shared experience. A lot of the traditions are very important to our students. And so being able to share those as a community, whether together or together while apart kind of thing. But I think patience is key because we're still learning on shared space, and I'm sure you all are learning about shared space with a bunch of teenagers. And so being able to be patient, and I think just over time, I think this time next year, I guess my biggest hope is it's just natural, and we're all just kind of moving in between when we have our masses celebrating here, welcoming, you know, parishioners to join in on those, or assemblies. I know we're going to have a hunger awareness assembly coming up. And so being able to be like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing a canned food drive right now, competition between grades. And so kind of working together and doing that, and maybe even creating a St. Charles team and seeing who competes, who gets the most. Numbers might not be in our favor, but we'll just work together and really make it feel like a family. Sharing our highs and supporting each other through lows, I think, is the biggest thing.
Barbara Keepus just chatted in saying, aren't we doing something for Our Lady of Guadalupe? We should brainstorm on how to be involved. And in fact, I have been corresponding this morning with Alyssa, who's in campus ministry. De La Salle is having a school mass on Monday, the 13th of December to celebrate Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I was able to tell Alyssa that, we will celebrate on the 12th with our parishioners, but if all of you would like to come in and decorate on Saturday, that would be terrific. So Barbara, yes, there is some connections going on there. Also, I want to let you know that I've been in further conversation with Dave Gregory about a spring series on the Bible, reading the Bible rebelliously. is the title of a four-part series that Dave will share with us. Learning about the Bible, but from the viewpoint of people who have not always been treated well in Scripture and in modern times. I think it'll be fantastic. Amanda, thank you so much for
Thank
being with us
you.
today. We really appreciate everything that you have shared.
Thank you so much. Thank you.